Welcome to Vegan Finds, where we're going to turn this into
this Peach Uglies.
So this morning as a treat, I've gotten up early and I'm going to be making a version of the Apple Ugly. For those of you who travel to the Outer Banks, you are probably familiar with the Apple Blossom Bakery and their Apple Uglies, and these are a taste sensation. You have to experience it because you just can't describe it. It's like apple pie meets cinnamon roll meets sugar bomb in a way that hard to explain, hard to describe, other than it's just this amazing kind of fritter donut thing. Absolutely delicious. But in this case, I'm going to actually be making them with peaches, since we've got a ton of peaches that we bought from Peach Brothers out of South Carolina, and we got 25 pounds. Going to give some to my parents, of course, and we're going to basically be doing a whole bunch of, obviously, peach recipes for you that are vegan. And the one thing about the Apple Uglies is they're not vegan. They're not gluten-free. These are going to be a gluten-free version of that and a vegan version of that. So we're going to be using sweetened condensed coconut milk, which I found works really well. I'm using the Caputo bread flour for this. I've got my fake egg from Namaste, and I've got some yeast that's starting to proof right now. So I'm going to start by making the dough, and once the dough is rising, I will make the filling for our Peach Uglies. Okay, so in my bowl here I have 6 tablespoons of sugar with a quarter cup of vegetable shortening, and as I've mentioned in previous videos, shortening is just basically refers to any kind of fat that's solid at room temperature. So you could use margarine in this case, any kind of vegan butter, coconut, the solid coconut oil as well. Don't use the virgin because that will add a coconut flavor, unless you don't mind a coconut flavor in your products. So you would have to look for refined coconut oil, but those would all work as well. So I'm just going to cream this up. It's fairly warm, and you just want to get the sugar and the shortening to come together a little bit. Now, of course, you could do this in your mix master. Keep forgetting what the word is because we put ours away, and I've been getting the workout ever since. KitchenAid mixer, or any other brand for that matter. And as you can see, this is already nicely creamed up, and so we're going to go to the next steps, which I'm going to do. You have to warm up the coconut milk, so I'm going to do that in the microwave. You just want it slightly above room temperature as well. For those of you who are unfamiliar with coconut milk, evaporated coconut milk, you can see it kind of looks very similar to how regular evaporated milk would look. So I'm just mixing it up because it's a little solid at the top, just like a can of coconut milk would be. And once you mix it together, you get a nice syrupy consistency. So I'm going to put that in my little dish to be microwaved for about 15-20 seconds. Okay, so into my bowl I'm adding my vegan egg. And depending on the brands that you buy, some actually smell like egg. This one does not, and that's fine. Sometimes I don't mind the smell. I'm adding the yeast, and you can see it's already proofing. When I added a little bit of sugar to get the yeast started, so I'm not waiting nearly as long for it to proof. So adding that in to the bowl, and I'll be adding the coconut milk and a teaspoon of vanilla to start the mixing process here. Okay, so into my bowl I'm adding 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and now I'm adding my half a cup of condensed milk. Okay, so I have my liquid ingredients all prepped up, and now I'm going to finish off the dry ingredients. So I got a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg going in here, and now I'm going to also add a teaspoon of salt. So I added my salt, and I'm just going to give this a quick stir to incorporate the ingredients. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start adding the dry ingredients into our wet ingredients and start the dough going. So I'm going to do this in stages. You don't want to do this all at once. Especially if you're doing it by hand. So. Now, if you were using a mixer, thank you, voice from beyond, this would go a hell of a lot faster, but I like doing things by hand too. If I had to make a whole large quantity of these, like they do at the Apple Blossom Bakery, oh, you believe me, I'd be using the industrial mixer non-stop. Of course, that place is super crowded. Everybody wants these things. They're crazy delicious. So I'm going to blend this all in together. As you can see, I'm going in stages. I suggest you do the same, and you can start to see the dough's already starting to come together quite nicely. I'll show you when it's finished what it looks like, and then I will show you how to make the peach filling. Okay, so here is the completed dough, and if you find that your dough is a little dry, working with gluten-free flour, each company, it varies from company to company. I mean, no gluten-free flour works the same way. So sometimes the dough might be a little bit too dry, sometimes it's a little too wet. And in this case, it was just a tad dry, so I added just a teeny tiny bit more of the coconut milk into this to get it to the consistency that I like. So now this is going to sit in here and rise for at least an hour. If you can give it more time, that would be great, but at least an hour. So you're going to want to cover it and keep it in a, doesn't have to be a warm spot, but just out of the way. One other quick note is that I oiled the bowl just in case the rise goes beyond what's typical of a gluten-free flour, and that way it won't stick to the sides. It'll come out of the bowl a lot easier. So just oil your bowl lightly before you place the dough in for its first rise. Okay, so in my pot I've got a 1/4 cup of sugar, and I've just pitted 4 peaches, and I'm just going to roughly chop these up. You don't want too small a piece because the peaches will break down as you cook them a little bit, and you want to have enough of a chunk in there so when you're biting into your peach uglies, you're getting the full impact of the peach. And that's you know, one of the nice things about the Apple Uglies, that the filling does not get really lost in all the baked goodness. So I'm going to cut these up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon to this, and I'm just going to cook this down till the peaches break down just a bit. I'm kind of letting them macerate to let some of the juices release, so when it does cook, it'll cook real quick. and I'll show you what the finished product's going to look like when it's done. Okay, so I've cooked these maybe 5 or 6 minutes, and you can see that they've kind of started to break down a little bit, and there's a lot of juice in there, which is kind of what we want. We don't want it to be pure puree. We want it to have these defined chunks. So I'm letting the dough rise. I'm going to roll the dough out. I'll show you how to finish this off to get to the ugly part of this process. And I'll be back when we're ready. Alright, so I got my dough rolled out. It's about a 1/2 inch thick. The dough had been resting for about an hour, a little bit more, and now it's time to put the filling on top of this. Okay, so we're going to take our filling and just start spreading it evenly out over our dough here. Just like so. Kind of smush it down a little bit if you can. Oh, it smells good. It smells real good. Okay. It's okay to get it as close to the edge as possible when doing this, because we're going to cut these and then kind of form them into oblong shapes, so they're not going to be super neat to begin with. So there we go. That is done. Now I'm going to cut this up. I'm actually going to sprinkle some cinnamon sugar on this as well, just as a final flavor enhancer. Okay, so I cut this into 8 pieces, just sprinkling some cinnamon sugar on there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 8 pieces, I'm going to lift one up here and just kind of mush it all together. Okay, and then just put them on a baking sheet. It's going to be messy, that much I can tell you. And you know how much I love messy. So anybody who knows me knows I'm freaking out right now because this stuff is all over my hands. But you just want to kind of get like this weird oblong shape. And I'll show you, I'll finish them up and I'll show you what they look like when they're ready. Okay, so these are our formed apple uglies. They're pretty ugly. This is a real messy process. I might use less filling next time. I might try and rework the dough recipe a bit because this was a real hard dough to work with. It wasn't very elastic at all, and I think it needed probably a little more sugar to the dough to increase some of the elasticity. Of course, when you're working with gluten-free dough, it's a lot harder than working with glutenized dough. So these are going to basically proof now for another, I'm going to say hour, and then they get the hot oil treatment. So we're going to cook these in a cauldron of hot oil and then glaze them. I will tell you the filling's delicious. I've eaten plenty of it already. So I'll be back to show you the final cooking process. Okay, so I've got 2 of the apple, I should say peach uglies in. I'm going to add a 3rd. Going to wait. Okay, yep. Flip these over. You want them kind of this golden brown color. These are a little bit slightly overdone, but
You know, it happens. That could be because of the sugar in the dough. Not used to frying with a lot of sugar. So, there we go. And once these are cooked through, then we're going to give them the glazing treatment of a nice sugar glaze to go on top. I will show you how to make that in a little bit. Okay, so I got my last two uglies in. Couple notes. I added more oil so that these were more submerged, and flipping them frequently will help the cooking process immensely. So the difference between the first batch and the second batch is rather stark, and I did lower the temperature. It's now set on 7 on our induction heater instead of 8. I don't know what that equates to, but should be around 350 degrees fat temperature wise. And you just want to keep basically flipping these over till they're a nice golden brown color, like these are getting right now. And I will show you how to finish them off in a moment. We're going to be creating a sugar glaze using some powdered sugar and a little bit of water to add the final sweet touch. Okay, so in my bowl here, what I have is about a cup of powdered sugar. You can use confectioner's sugar, whatever's vegan that you can find. I took some of the leftover liquid from the peach cooking, added that to this, and also a little bit of water, so you have this nice glaze here. I'm going to just take a little taste. Sugar coma worthy. I'm going to add a little bit more of the peach juice to it to loosen it up. Then I'm going to drizzle it onto our uglies. Okay, so basically added the glaze here, just taking a little drizzle and pouring it on here, and the heat from the uglies themselves are melting the glaze a little bit more. I got a couple more to do. I'm going to cut one open so you can see the center, and I'm going to eat one. Okay, so here it is. Here's the center of the apple ugly, or I keep saying apple. It's a peach. I'm going to take a bite. That's good. The peach is excellent. I might have want to cook it a little bit longer, but if you like these recipes, I will give you my notes in the description. Please click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Share. Follow us on Twitter at Vegan Fine. Follow us on Instagram at Vegan Fine. Join us at Facebook at Vegan Finds. We hope you enjoy, and we shall return. Thank you. Be safe, and sayonara.